Hello and welcome back to another strangely awesome games video. So at the beginning of season 2 of Modern Warfare 3 in Warzone, we put up a video showing you how to build the Rick Grimes guns in the gunsmith here in Modern Warfare 3. And today we're going to do the same thing for Michonne and make some builds based on her loadouts from The Walking Dead and The Ones Who Live. Alright, so our first build is going to be an M4 modeled after the rifle that the CRM uses. I say modeled after because it's not quite exact. I'll show you what I mean. So they dropped a new barrel that allows you to change the 14-inch carbine shroud to have more of a standard looking handguard than the super round one. So that's what I'm going to be using for this build. The Holger vertical grip I use because almost always when you see the CRM with their M4s, they always have a vertical grip on them. Same thing with this bullseye optic. This is the closest thing we have in game to a traditional ACOG, which is the CRM's optic of choice, seemingly. Torrent span 9 stock. I'm going to use on pretty much every M4 build I use because I love what it does for recoil control, but it also gives you a more standard classic M4 stock look that's a little fuller than the more skeletal default one. And unfortunately, there's no way to do that cool like 3-pronged melee weapon that they have on the end of their barrels in the show. But you can use, there's a couple different muzzle devices that give you increased melee damage, and this is the one I'm going to go for because it also helps you with your hip fire and attack stance spread, and I just think it looks the coolest and the most like a, you know, sharp pointed zombie killing weapon. Oh, and before I forget, the camo, I use Magma Digital just because it's got that militaristic black and red look that I think goes really well with the Ones Who Live's branding and aesthetic. But the thing is, if you don't run a camo on this gun, because of the blueprint, you're going to get a really weird coloration you don't want on your handguard. So I would honestly recommend you run any camo other than the solid color camos, because I tried to just run black. As you can see, that doesn't work. It does not change the coloration of the handguard at all, which is unfortunate. Alright, so our next build is going to be a Norinco Type 56, which Michonne uses a bit in the All Out War arc of Season 8. This is almost an identical build to one of the ones we had in the Rick Grimes video with all the wood furniture. The main difference being we built this off of the RPK this time instead of the cast-off 7.62, because the RPK gives you a stamped metal receiver, which is just like how they have it in the show. So attachments for this, CAS 7 406mm barrel, Ivanov wood stock. Those are both mostly for aesthetic purposes to get the wooden furniture on the gun, but they do help with recoil and stability a bit, which will help a lot when you're using this gun. And then the 40-round mag for a steel mag, even though it's a little longer than one they use on the show. Unfortunately, the 30-round mag, we still only have polymer versions. There are no steel 30-round mags. So this is as close as we can get it. I like this build a lot. It does kick a decent amount, but if you control it, pretty manageable, especially at that mid-range. I really can't hit that long target out there, to be honest with you, so I would not make this a Warzone build. But for mid-range and close range, zombies multiplayer, gonna do you just fine. And you do still have 2 free attachment slots, which you can use for whatever you want. If you still want to keep the look of the gun intact, though, I would say rear grip, if you have this closer version from this blueprint, looks pretty close to the wood on the rest of the gun. And then obviously you can always change out your ammunition, especially on a gun that doesn't have a viewport in the magazine, because then you don't even see the ammo, so it doesn't matter what it looks like. So you can do this just to get a pure stat boost, which I would personally recommend the low grain rounds, because the recoil on this thing, as I showed you all earlier, is kind of a lot. Okay, our next build is going to be this M16A4 sniper rifle configuration. Michonne used this a bit in Season 5, and there's scenes where Carol, Daryl, and Noah all use it as well, so it kind of got a lot of use out of the group in that season. So to make this, you got to pretty much reinvent the entire gun. Starting with the optic, most important to give it that sniper rifle aesthetic, and this is the closest that we have by far of the available options on the M4 to the one you see in the show. The Assault 60 stock, which is the factory stock for the M4, but is an attachment on the M16. And I did put the charcoal camo on this because if you don't, that stock is going to be tan, which you don't want, so definitely throw the black on there. And the Sakin ZX grip I used, I couldn't get a great look at the grip in the show, but I think having a heavier grip on a sniper rifle just makes more sense to me, and it will help you with recoil, which you will definitely need. And then on the end of the barrel in the show, there's almost like a cup-shaped muzzle attachment, so I used the Cronin Ma 86 to replicate that. And the closest bipod I could find was the X10 stable shot. So I'm going to take this in game and show you all. Not a gun you want to use in burst, because it kicks a lot, and especially with that zoom, with how high of a zoom it is on a rifle, it really makes it look even worse than it probably actually is. So definitely want to go in semi-auto for this and use this as kind of a DMR, pick targets off from mid to long range, but it does move quick enough that you can still kind of catch people off guard with it around a corner. for sure. And then if you mount up with the bipod, especially if you focus in, that's when you're going to get your sniper usage out of this. Unfortunately, it doesn't do enough damage to get a one-shot kill anywhere, no matter how close you are, no matter how, if you hit the head. Lowest you're going to get is 3. But if you want to change that, go into hardcore or go into zombies and just pack a punch this gun. So not a really effective gun, to be honest, but I love the aesthetic of it. Pretty screen accurate and just a really interesting, unique way to configure the M16 that will get it to feel like almost an entirely different weapon. Next up, we have 2 bolt-action rifle builds in the Bryson rifle platform from Modern Warfare 2. So we see Michonne train with this and use it a bit, get some practice when she's going on that scavenging mission with Rick when they're looking for guns to fight Negan. And this is a fairly easy conversion to do that gets you a really accurate look to what you have in the show. Gotta go with the olive camo to get the coloration right. That's honestly the most important thing of the aesthetic, next to this muzzle attachment here, which is pretty close match for the one Michonne has in the show that has the kind of vented ports on the sides of the muzzle. Journeyman 32 scope I like to use a lot for the aesthetic, even though I'll show you in the firing range, unfortunately, you can't change the color of like this soft part that would rest on your eye. Just a little tan. Other than that, build looks perfect. And I use the Bryson Streamline here just to give it a more consistent look with the rest of the gun. I don't really like the texture on that. It's not accurate what you have in the show. And by having this, it helps you make this thing a little more mobile. The bolt, you can really do whatever. I use this faster bolt just to have a better rechambering speed because this is a gun that you're going to want to use quick scoping, in my opinion. Because it's not super accurate at extreme long ranges. Obviously, you can do well at that target. But if you were trying to get someone from a couple hundred meters at Warzone, not really going to happen. And this thing wouldn't be a one-hit in Warzone anyways. This is definitely a multiplayer quick-scoping build. And for that, it is pretty accurate, honestly. I'm not even holding down to get the focus there, and there's not a lot of idle sway at all. Alright, so the next one we have is like a sporting rifle based off of a Remington 700 PSS. It's actually a marksman rifle, not a sniper rifle technically in game, and it fires a lower caliber round. Build here, just want to get a nice optic. It's actually the same one we used for the M16 build. It looks pretty good, and I actually use the Bryson Enforcer stock, which is the default on the sniper. I do think it looks good and performs well, gives you some aiming idle sway help on here, which you're gonna need. Threw a bipod on there because she does have one in the show. Again, put the same bolt attachment just so that way you can get follow-up shots in faster succession. And I put the high-grain round ammunition on, which you don't have to, but you're definitely gonna want to because this gun has pretty weak range, to be honest. As you can see, even out to there, not a one-hit kill. That close, not a one-hit kill. So this gun caught a huge nerf, unfortunately, when it was carried forward in MW3. So this is a headshot only weapon, really, to be effective with it. So again, not a super effective gun, but definitely has a great aesthetic, which I really like. Okay, now we have 2 sidearm options. This one is going to be the Beretta 92 FS pistol, which Michonne uses it quite a bit in the main show and the Ones Who Live. This build, fairly accurate appearance. All you have to do is put that short competition barrel on, and you're going to have pretty much the exact look you need. Unfortunately, there is no way to make this be semi-auto. It's burst only, but aesthetic, really spot on. And this is a really fun sidearm to use, honestly, because it can kill people in 2 bursts, no problem. So definitely, if you're in a pinch, you need to pull out a secondary, this is a great one to have. So we have one more pistol, and this one's a bit more novelty. This is inspired from the revolver that Rick and Michonne both have as their service weapon when they're kind of doing like their security, sheriff, cop work in Alexandria in Season 5. This is a really short, snubby black revolver. So to make this, you're going to want to start with the trigger finger blueprint, which is in the Season 2 Battle Pass, because that way, if you throw charcoal on this, you're going to get it black all around. Bryson snubby barrel, of course, just to cut it down, make it really short like it is in the show. The loader is totally up to you. That's just a matter of preference. I like to have more ammo in the reserve. The trigger I chose just so it was solid black to match the color of the rest of the gun, and it does give you a bit of a better fire rate and trigger response time, which is super helpful. And then this wooden grip here, the Bryson WD-85 grip, is going to help you with your recoil as well. I always go for the high grain rounds because they're going to help you with your bullet velocity and damage range. It does up your recoil a little bit, but I honestly like that look when I'm running a revolver. This is a really fun gun to use. I love the look of it. I wouldn't use it in Warzone. I wouldn't use it as a primary, but if you put it in your class in multiplayer, it is really fun to switch to. if you're in a pinch and you finish some people off, you can get some really satisfying 2-shot kills. And then I did just want to show off, because I knew someone was probably going to ask, unfortunately there is no katana in the game right now, but if you buy the Michonne bundle, you do have these killer kodachis here, which basically look like mini versions of Michonne's katanas, but with some Walking Dead branding and blood and stuff on them. But the way the handle's wrapped is pretty close to how she has it in the show. So if you want to run a melee weapon with Michonne on your builds or secondary instead of one of the 2 pistols we just showed, this is definitely the one to pick. Alright, so those are all the builds we found to use with the Michonne operator in Modern Warfare 3. If you enjoyed this video, and especially if you plan on using any of these builds yourself in-game, please let us know by giving this video a thumbs up and subscribe to us here on YouTube. We have tons of Walking Dead content on the channel, and more COD stuff as well, with more of both on the way. So be sure to stay tuned here and check out our site at strangelyAwesomeGames.com for all things gaming entertainment.